Yesterday I was watching a podcast, Timcast, and he was talking about how it was a presentation on Millennials and Generation Z and how they're lazy and it's the boomers' fault. And he was showing a bunch of clips about I believe she was a millennial, or either a young millennial or an older Generation Z, and she was talking about how they're not lazy at all and it's the boomers' fault. It was interesting because they didn't mention Generation X in any of that. You got my parents were the boomers, and I'm in my late 40s. I'm about to be 50 in a year. And then you have, I think, millennials kind of go up to the age of almost 40. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And then, of course, you got Generation Z, the kids. And the contentious point of being lazy was, in my opinion, the model that younger generations have been sold as a pathway to success. It's like a mindset issue. I don't believe it's at all that they're lazy. I think they're misguided, and I'm going to give you my reasons and my experience as to why I think that's true. So the young lady in question gives a presentation on the current cost of living. Now, she has a job. She makes $20 an hour, and her rent is, I would say, 2/3 of her income. And she talks about her expenses, her mandatory, she said, life-saving medication. Although I don't know, looking at her, I suspected I don't know if it was life-saving or not. She didn't go into what the medication was. I didn't necessarily believe her. But we'll go with that premise. We'll say that the medication was life-saving, and that was a nice chunk of her money. And then, of course, paying student loan debt off, which was $300 a month. There's a lot of flaws with this system, and I'll tell you why. When the boomers were coming up, they had much cheaper housing prices, although access to loans, you had to have, really good credit in order to get loans. But generally speaking, it was way easier to get into a house, way easier to get a car, and most full-time work that a man of my age or younger could accept paid enough to support a family. The mother could stay at home, raise the kids, nuclear family, traditional stuff. Real simple. You guys know our history. Well, feminism occurred and flooded the market with women. You basically doubled your workforce. So now the supply and demand, workers versus jobs, has skewed significantly. And now where it was, say you had 5 guys that were trying to get a job and they had 10 open positions, they could negotiate for the wages, because if you don't want to pay them what they're worth, they could just go somewhere else. I'm not going to do it. Like, I want $10 an hour. No, I want 11, or I'm going to go to this other place. Real easy. That's the example that Tim gave. Makes sense. Well, now there's 5 guys and 5 women, 10 jobs, and they could say simply, hey, I've got a lot of resumes coming in. I don't need to hire you. Take it or leave it. And that's kind of what's happened, essentially, is, jobs that would pay you a living wage have pretty much disappeared. But here's the flaw in this whole thing. Basically what she presented was, at the end of the month, she only had a few bucks left that she could maybe save, and that's assuming that she don't have a social life, and that it would be impossible to save for retirement. She would need like X amount of dollars to retire, and this was of course based on a $20 an hour job. So flaw number 1, you're telling me that you go out and you got a job that pays you $20 an hour, and you're going to, do that for the rest of your life? You'll never better yourself. You'll never get a better position. That degree you went to school for is worthless. You can't use it for any real-world applications. You're not going to be able to make any more money than that. You're stuck at $20 for the rest of your life. The second flaw, she lives in an area that she doesn't want to move from, because it's got all the accoutrements and conveniences of life. It's got her friends. It's got her family. It's got her social network. But it's an area that's super expensive. So you're stating that you need to live in the place that takes 2/3 of your income. That is a want. You could move somewhere cheaper. Absolutely, 100%. The third flaw is the student debt thing. Yes, colleges were really, really cheap back in the day, but a lot of people didn't go to college. A lot of people didn't get degrees. And, they're a business model like anyone else, even though they had standards and you had to meet the standards to get accepted into a lot of them. Essentially, they were trying to recruit people. Of course, universities want to have more students. So there was a lot of incentives to get people to go to college, and they sold kids on this model. They were even willing to give loans out. Oh my God, you could just go into debt before you start your life to get a degree that you don't even know if you're going to use or not. We're told, go to school, get good grades, go to college, then what? Statistically speaking, people with degrees do, over a lifetime, make a significant more amount of money than people without degrees. However, there's so many caveats to that. When I was, right before I joined the military, I think I went in at right about the age of 19, almost 20. I was like considered old in boot camp. I'm always like that. I think that's why I see myself as the old guy, because I'm always the one that's a little bit older than everyone else. I'm a late bloomer. But I spent 2 years on the streets homeless. Absolutely homeless, just doing whatever I wanted. I traveled the country. I went from Chicago to Florida with no money, no job, living on the streets, begging, doing whatever I can, hustling, doing odd jobs, stealing. Yeah, I got lots of stories. But essentially, I lived a life of absolute freedom and lack of accountability. I had no one to be accountable to. And of course, there was a lot of trials and tribulations. There was a lot of sleeping outside in cold nights. There was a lot of just wondering where the next meal's coming from. But it really, really taught me that life is not about possessions. It's about experiences. And if you're stuck in this idea that you have to do X, Y, and Z to get X, Y, and Z, go to school, go to college, get job's supposed to take care of you, and you live the rest of your life, in this box, this model that you can't break out from. You can't better yourself. You have no agency. Of course you're going to blame the boomers because they parented you bad. You were taught wrong. I was taught wrong. I had to essentially run away from it all and experience it for myself to understand that I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. People tell me, I want to go see the world, but I don't have the money. You don't need any money. If you sacrifice everything you own, you can go anywhere you want right now, and you'd be surprised. You can get across the world for under $1,000. Yeah, you might have to stay in a hostel. Yeah, you might have to backpack it. But if your life's ambition is to go see Europe, then go do it. It is so easy to do. You can get online right now and look up ways of transportation, and there's a whole bunch of ways to get over there that are not traditional, buying tickets, getting a resort, staying at a whatever. No, you can backpack it, baby. So don't ever let that be an excuse as to why you can't see the world. Obviously, when you settle down and you have a family and people that are, you're responsible for, people that are depending on you, it's probably not the smartest thing in the world to burn it all down to travel the world on a whim. And yeah, your options might be limited by your situation and whatever, but the whole point is that people think they can't do something, and they absolutely can. They just don't see it. They're trapped. They're absolutely 100% trapped in this idea that they have to adhere and stick to a system, and that system is supposed to provide for them. And of course they become resentful of the past generations because that very same system that provided for the past generations is failing to do so for them. But I was always the one that said, screw the system. Get out of it. If you can't afford to live somewhere, move. If you have a crappy job, get a better one. If you don't have the skills to get a better job, accumulate them. Everything is a grind. Nothing. Life's not fair. Nothing is free. You start out in the gym as a weakling, overweight, and you mold yourself, you forge yourself into this piece of iron that is immovable. You move an immense amount of weights. You're the strongest man on the planet. How did that happen? You had to work for it. What do the arguments always go back to? They always talk about the genetically gifted, or people that had it lucky. Kids that grew up rich and had everything handed to them. You super athletes that can just walk into a weight room and get swole. You guys that use drugs and cheat their way to the top. Whatever, fill in the blank. Whatever reason that somebody else had it easier than you, and you just can't. You can't do it. It's not fair. So you were gonna what? Live your life in resentment? Just hate everybody that has it better than you? Or are you gonna pick that weight up and move it and forge yourself into that piece of steel you always wanted to be? As it is with the iron, it is in life. Anything worth having takes work. And you have to think outside of the box. You can't trap yourself. I failed out of school. I was homeless. And before the age of 26, I had been around the world twice. I've been to 22 different countries. I've seen it. I've done some really cool stuff. I lived a couple of lifetimes. And you know what? It happened more than once. I wound up on the streets more than one time. And the reason why is because I just never saw this reason to just stick to the traditions and the norms to get successful. If I saw something, I went for it. And if that meant I had to sacrifice everything and give it up to start to do it, I did. Now I have a family that I cherish more than anything, and that is my priority. I'm a family man now. So obviously my, priorities have shifted radically. I did go back to school. I did get certifications. I did get different job experiences. I'm continuing to learn. I'm always furthering my education. And I'm always looking for that next opportunity that's going to make my family's life a little bit easier. I never thought I'd buy a house. I bought a little 1,600 square foot, nothing fancy. It was a fixer-upper. We had to do a lot of work to it. I got 3 cars that are, older than you are, and they all run, but I don't have any bills for them. Everything's paid for. My priorities are not the new shiny things. My priorities are what experiences can I get from this world and what can I give to my family. I want to take them places to see things. I want them to do different things. I want them to understand that they have agency in their life and they can do whatever they want, provided that they put the effort in and work for it. Got to look to themselves. And they always say, well, that's a Generation X thing to say. You have to work for it. You have to earn it. Nothing's free. Nothing's given to you, and you're just stuck in your ways. How in the history of man has it ever been different? I don't understand where this sentiment that you're owed a living simply because you exist and the world owes you because they had it better. Who had it better? You're boiling down all their life experiences to Grandpa's nice house that he had and he gave to the family when he passed away. A lifetime accumulation of things in a generation past, and they see the way that they lived. And they didn't. What about that generation before them? What about the Great Depression? What about the Great World Wars? What about hell before that? The feudalistic system, the slavery, going back to religious persecution, indentured servitude. We'll take it back to before we even founded America, and it's not that many generations removed, where men and women just mightily struggled against the chaos and the tyranny of the world. We were lucky if we lived to see the age of 40. And now we live in a civilization that's so advanced and everything's at our fingertips. We have all the modern accoutrements we want for nothing. And we live like kings. Everything's temperature controlled, everything's soft, everything's tactile, everything's safe. There's no adventure anymore. I was watching a video and I thought it was a joke. These kids literally thought that food magically appears at the grocery store. They were asking about, they were vegans or anti-meat. Oh, it was the nuttiest thing I'd ever seen. People just don't understand where anything comes from anymore, and they're disconnected from it all, and that's why we have these problems. The whole point of this video, it's for my kids, hopefully someday when they get old enough and they're in this system, they're stuck in it, and it's my job as a dad to show them that, yeah, you should go to school, you should get good grades, you might want to go to college, you might want to get a degree, but it is not the only path to success. And don't let the world shrink wrap you. Don't let the world put you in a box. Don't let anybody take away your agency. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do something and you can't see the world. You want to throw a backpack on and become a hobo, do it. What do they used to call them? I believe it was bohemian. That was before the dirty hippies. Yeah, the old bohemians. Yeah, that's what I kind of see myself. I see myself as an anachronism. A soul that was born in the wrong time period. I yearn to get out there. I yearn to break away from it all. And as much as I'm able to at my age with my responsibilities, that is exactly what my goal, my mission in life is. I don't want to accumulate things. He who has the most shiny shit when he dies still dies with nothing. I want to pass on experiences, and I want you to know that you too can do whatever you want to do when you set your mind to it, as cliche as that sounds. And the only thing you have to do to start is just make a damn decision. Go to the gym, start moving some weights around, put some more on the bar tomorrow, and do a little bit more, rinse and repeat. As it is with the iron, it is with life. Anything you want is going to require work, and unfortunately, life isn't fair. Nobody owes us anything. But generally speaking, if we put the time and effort and dedication into it, you can do pretty much whatever you set your mind to, and you certainly are not limited by what you have. I love you guys. Hey, if you find this stuff helpful, throw me a subscription, man. I could really use the help. Thank you very much.